Jonathan, when we talk about the terms of this deal, the ball is starting to get rolling, but there's still some major questions that remain. As far as you, if you could pinpoint one of the biggest obstacles that remain in actually implementing this deal, what would you say?
Oh, it will be a long list because this deal, if we're blunt and frank about it, is a deal that more or less favors Israeli security interests, whether it's about getting our hostages back or the long-term view in terms of the Gaza Strip, disarming Hamas, taking power over Gaza away from them, and then really changing the situation in Gaza, the famous and ambiguous de-radicalizing the Gaza Strip, which, if that is infused with purpose, that'll be a tough one to implement as well. So there's definitely a lot of things. First things first, will Hamas hand over all of the hostages, live and then the murdered ones? I assume, based on the messaging and the tone that we've been hearing from Qataris, from Turks, from the Egyptians, and from Hamas itself, that there will be issues with the murdered hostages, the bodies that are supposed to be returned. Hamas claims that they don't have all of them in their possession. And I think the first fork in the road and the first dilemma for Israel and the US will be, okay, Hamas is claiming that they don't have all the bodies. Now what? What do we do, and what will the price be? Will that mean a snapback into fighting, or will it mean something else? That's the first one. Second big one, which I think is really meaningful, is how exactly will anybody get Hamas to disarm? They've already said and insinuated on Arabic media that, well, the weapon is part of the resistance, and that is the right of the people, and a lot of other Hamas propaganda, and they look as if they're trying to create more wiggle room when it comes to disarmament. So that I think will be the second big deal. And then, of course, there's always the option that something will happen on the ground, that Hamas will attack Israeli troops, that there will be some major tactical event that Hamas will use, whether it's Hamas or some other factions, Islamic Jihad or some other organization that wants to derail the deal and are not happy with the details. That could also happen. But I think first things first, we'll focus on 20 hostages getting back, live ones, hopefully. And then I think we should all be, curb our enthusiasm, as the saying goes, and to be prepared for a long, challenging road ahead. This isn't going to, end quickly. This isn't really about peace in the Middle East. It's about a ceasefire that may translate itself into a lasting ceasefire and a better security situation in Gaza.
I want to come back here in studio quickly, Jonathan, because when we talk about the issue of disarmament inside Gaza, that's not only the full issue. It's also making sure that Hamas not only disarms, but doesn't rearm, as they had done through the Egyptian border with Rafah. Who's going to make sure that Egypt actually carries through on this promise to make sure that Hamas doesn't rearm? Because it said it in the past, and that's still what happened.
Yeah, I mean, the current situation in Gaza and the 2 years of fighting and many years before that of Hamas rule, a lot of it is because Egypt allowed Hamas to get armed. And I'll say something that I rarely say. It's also because Israel allowed Egypt to allow that to happen. Israel could have been tougher, should have been tougher, and turned a blind eye to the very same generals, not them in person, but we're watching video footage of the Egyptian army. Lots of Egyptian generals got pretty rich out of running weapons through Sinai and allowing Hamas to get weapons from Iran and from other places. And we kind of turned a blind eye to it. Egypt is undoubtedly the most important country when it comes to the future of Gaza. The US is very important, but at the end of the day, Egypt is closest, Egypt is Arabic, Egypt is Muslim, and Egypt used to govern Gaza for many, many centuries, and it was always an outcast of Egyptian control. So Egypt is playing a smart game here. On one side, they could have prevented about a year and 9 months of suffering by simply opening the Rafah gate and allowing Gazans to flee. That would have pulled the rug underneath the feet of Hamas, and it would have ended the war much, much faster. They didn't, because the turmoil and the war and the suffering in Gaza serves Egyptian interests. It provides Egypt with a seat at the table of the big boys, and this is exactly where President Fattah al-Sisi is now, and enjoying that limelight, and Egypt is back as an important country mediator in the world. And the fact that Palestinians are suffering is a tool that the Egyptians are using. Israel knows that, the US knows that, everybody knows it, but we're still playing along in that game. And the day after in Gaza, disarmament, de-radicalization hinges very much on how strongly motivated the Egyptians will be to actually allow and let that happen. If they won't be motivated, I think the chances of Israel doing it by force are limited. And for sure, Europeans, Americans will not be able to do it, but it hinges very much on Egypt.
Jonathan, we have a minute left. I just want your thoughts.
The real important, and this is a very important update to be anticipated, but I think, I suppose this has already been covered and agreed upon between the Israeli team and the American team. And I think that what the Israeli government will be voting on is the agreements made with the Americans, which are based on what we've been able to assess and what, of course, they have been able to assess that Hamas will indeed obstruct and issue problems with this. And that'll be the first hurdle. I'm sure that there will be many on the Israeli side who will be eager to pounce and to use that as an opportunity. And for this weekend, I hope that I think we should be realistic in hoping that we can get live hostages back. That looks to be the best achievement that we can wait for so far, and then piece by piece.
Piece by piece, that's all we can ask for. Lieutenant Colonel in Reserves Jonathan Conricus, thank you for being with us today.